Hey everyone, I am Tiffany Standard, founder and CEO of Stimulus Inc., and the host and organizer of Supply and Demand, the real cost of doing business. We are a series of events and community really focused on helping founders navigate supply chain issues, wins and losses, discuss industry trends, and build better relationships with their businesses that they're working with. And I started these events to really focus on Black and Brown women and in bringing them into the conversation on subject matters that they are not normally invited to speak on, margins to free doesn't mean free shipping and things of that nature, and really having amazing conversations with women growing amazing businesses in different industries from software to CBG. So really excited to welcome our next guest, Olamide. She is a serial entrepreneur who recently graduated from the University of California and is a former co-founder of SheaGIRL, a Sundial Brands subsidiary now owned by Unilever. She is currently the CEO and founder of Topicals, a skincare company transforming the way people feel about their skin through effective product and mental health advocacy. She is the youngest Black woman to raise 1 million, having raised 2.6 million in August of 2020. Excited to welcome her to our series of events.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Olamide Aloe. As Tiffany said, I'm the founder and CEO of Topicals and here just having fun.
Thank you so much for being here. So I met her. So one, I was using her products, Topicals, before I met her. So when I met her in person, we met at the CEO retreat in Nashville, hosted by Blavity, Morgan, the entire team. So I was like, hey, I am using your products. And when I walked over to speak to her and another lady, they were actually speaking about supply chain issues. So I was like, hey, I'm literally here to like invite you to speak at Supply and Demand and talk about, wins and losses of supply chain. So it was very like, hey, this is like a perfect kind of conversation to be having. So very excited to have you here. And also being a Topicals user, I've been using it, I think about a year now. So I use Faded, I use like butter all over. I got the spray, the creams, everything. So yeah, see, you see that? Okay.
I'm so glad that you said that. I'm always so happy to hear people in real life using the products. My team makes fun of me because anytime someone like will randomly come up to me or talk about how much they love Faded, I'm always like, who paid you? Because I just can't even believe that people like the product and like something I like concepted in my head became a reality and that so many people love it. So I appreciate your support and I'm glad the products are working for you.
Yes, very excited. And you have a new product out, Slather, that I cannot wait. And you hinted at it a little bit when we met, like, because we were talking about, Black skin, and sometimes, our skin can get like bumpy and discoloration, and KP is what they call it, or strawberry skin, or whatever they like to call it, the many names.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that. So I'm like, okay, what products are you talking about? And then it just launched. So very excited about that for you and congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm super excited. This is the fifth product out of our, no, wait, fifth or sixth? This is the fifth product out of our assortment. It has been a very, very interesting road. We are all about chronic skin conditions. And so I think people typically in the beauty industry, we're a company that's about 22 months old. Most brands are launching a ton of products to try and, fill up your bathroom. We've been super slow and steady about the types of products we produce because we know one, that great product takes time. And two, we're not here to complicate your routine. We're actually here to simplify it and condense a lot of the steps. And so Slather is the newest baby on the block. And it is an exfoliating body serum with retinol and AHAs. It is made at the right pH so that you don't have irritation, but you get quick results because of the high amount of actives of the product. So very excited, very proud of my team and how we've created the product. And I'm also very excited about how we are talking about, keratosis pilaris and KP and strawberry legs, like talking about it as something that's more fun or can be fun or a point of like connection with people versus something that people feel that they need to hide or be shameful. So excited and really blessed to do the job that I do.
I love that because I don't know if I consider it fun on my body sometimes, but I do get the point of trying to make it less serious and like, okay, you can't not wear shorts or a skirt because you have strawberry legs or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
chronic skin care, skin problems from acne to KP to all of that is stuff that, especially as Black and brown women, we're really insecure about because we get more of those darker marks and spots and stuff all over our body, which can be really traumatic when you're trying to,
Right.
up and all of that, and you're comparing yourself to other folks. So having this new product, what was the process like? It's a lot of different, chronic skin problems that people are having. What's the process of selecting this to be your next product? Was it from feedback? Was it from, just your knowledge of just the different things that are happening in the industry, or a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both. So everything we do is community led. So our products typically are inspired by what our community is going through. And so a lot of them will literally tweet at us and say, like, we want to see X, Y, and Z from you. Or we'll start to see that a lot of our community is talking about a specific skin condition, whether it be KP or dark spots or eczema. And from there, we then go into figuring out the market size. While we want to do all the skin conditions we can, some of them are a lot harder to enter, whether it's because there's a competitor in the market that just really has the industry on lock, or there just isn't enough innovation there for us to go after. We never do a product just because. We do a product because we want to create whatever could be the best in that category. And so we do a little bit of market sizing. And then from there, we move into the lab to figure out, is it even possible to make a product that is effective and cost effective for this customer? And I think those two things are very interesting when you think about supply chain. Is it's really great when you have an idea of a product, but can that product actually come to life in a way that is affordable for you to buy and then affordable for you to sell to the customer, right? I think a lot of people are really excited about getting products that do 12 things, but don't realize that 12 things cost a lot of money. And so now you're looking at a product that is $70. I think sunscreen is a category like this that a lot of people are very upset when sunscreens come out on the market and they're 30, 40, $50. But the amount of work that it takes to get a sunscreen out, it typically takes 2 years. The cost of getting a sunscreen out, I think it's a $20,000 testing cost just to get the sunscreen approved. And I think that might even be on the lighter side. But now imagine if this sunscreen fails the testing, you have to go back and do the testing again. And so sunscreen and it's an FDA product. So you want to make sure that you're not just making something that is cool. You want to make something that really works and is safe for people's skin, and it's going to protect them from the sun. And so it takes a really long time. And so when a company has invested all that time, money into vending relationships, into materials, and then they get that product on the market, if they're selling it for 35, you know exactly why now, because it took them so much to get the product to market. And so for us, Slather was a very interesting product. We had quite a bit of issues with like getting it to market. One, because of the actives that we put in there, again, both retinol and a blend of glycolic and lactic acid, and urea, which are like the powerhouses of exfoliation. But typically you don't see them in the same product because the irritation can be extremely high. So we had to find specific types of ingredients to use in the product to make sure everything was going to mesh together. We then had to like spend time in the lab making sure all the pH balanced out. And so I think what a lot of people don't understand as it relates to other products being made is this idea of specific vendors sell specific ingredients, and the quality from one vendor is not always the same as the quality of another vendor. And so when you get into positions like we were with COVID last year, and someone is selling an ingredient that is a specific quality that you always use, now when they are out of stock because they have their own supply chain issues, now you have to figure out either I'm going to either stay out of stock until they get back with this ingredient, which customers get upset about, your retail partners get upset about, your bottom line gets upset about because you're making no money, but you're still paying salaries, doing marketing. And what a lot of brands have to do, and what we've had to do, is you shift to find a product or ingredient that is comparable. And sometimes that means like the formulation is off a little bit, or the labeling, how these ingredients are named, can be a little bit different because maybe this vendor adds a little something different. And so I think looking at supply chain as kind of the core of your business is really important, because if one thing is off, your marketing of this product can be off. The price you pay and the price you sell it to your customers can be off. So supply chain, everyone thinks money is made in marketing. I think money is made in the supply chain.
Say it. Yes, me being in the supply chain industry, I'll be trying to like throw it at people, and people need to understand. I don't care if you're in software, I don't care you in CBG. Everything's a part of a supply chain, and my investors that really focus on supply chain, as he likes to say, the world is a supply chain.
It
So,
is.
so I'm glad that you said that. And some people don't know, like you said, 2 years to make a sunscreen, which is crazy. Because I just, and even though I'm in supply chain, I'll still get mad when something's out of stock. I'm like,
Out
damn,
of stock. Yeah.
like if we
And
still
it's Yeah. And it's like you're upset, but I'm upset too. Like
right.
last year, anecdotally for Topicals was our first fiscal year in business, meaning the first year that we had from like January to December of sales. And we were sold out for probably three-fourths. Well, no, but let's say I'd probably like one-fourth of the year. So like we were sold out for a long time. And it depended on what channel. On our website, we were sold out probably like three-fourths of the year. At Sephora, we were sold out for half of the year. And
Really
so
were.
yes. And what's really bad about that, especially for smaller Black owned businesses and really indie businesses in general, is the retailer gets impatient, right? They're like, we need this product. We have a hole in our shelf. And so it causes the brands to have to figure out very quickly, how am I going to get product to that customer, to that vendor? And then the customers on your own D2C site, or if you have your own stores, is also upset because they want the product and they want it now. And unfortunately, and I guess fortunately, because Amazon has done a lot for the world, but this Amazon microwavable 2 minutes, 2 day shipping has really gotten to a lot of people. And they expect the same thing from indie brands who just quite literally cannot deliver that. And I think when you layer the COVID pandemic on top of that, USPS was understaffed for over a year and a half, and a lot of packages were going missing. A lot of packages weren't being delivered because there wasn't a workforce, but customers still expected to receive things in a timely manner. And so that was a very difficult thing for us to have to go through. I think I laud myself for being really transparent with our community and just saying, hey, we're trying our best. There's nothing we can do because of the global supply chain. And luckily, because a lot of other brands were feeling it, customers were more understanding than maybe they typically would have been. But I definitely think this like microwavable 2 second generation that we have going on, where everything we can get at our fingertips, makes people very upset. But people need to remember, it used to take months
Yep.
back in the day when there was no supply chain.
Oh my God.
Months
I'm trying to
to get.
remember when we got used, like how many years have we been used to Amazon delivering so quickly? Like same
Yeah,
day. I don't even know. Because you get so used to it, whether it's you order an Uber Eats, certain things like
yeah,
Instacart, everything, it just became very instant. So you brought up some really great points of just that transparency. And as a smaller company, how often are you transparent when it comes to that? Like, do you wait a few weeks? You wait a couple months? Like, how often are you letting folks know, like, hey, it may be on Sephora here, or hey, go to our website here, or go to Amazon here to purchase the product? Because a lot of controversy has been happening across the board, especially for Black and brown women when it comes to their product. And you want to be transparent, but at the same time, you're just trying to fix the problem, right? So
yeah,
you find that balance between I need to tell you, but I may can fix the problem before I have to tell you, right?
yeah.
With that balance.
So for us, I mean, I always try to do it beforehand, but there are instances where even you're caught off guard with supply chain. Like last year, there's like, it almost feels like, oh, you should know that you're going to run out of product, but like something goes viral really quickly, and a product that you had 6 months worth of stock gets sold in 2 weeks. And now you go from, having a ton of stock to nothing. And with COVID again, and with typical supply chains, it takes for us 3 months to get product from start to finish. And so if I run out of product that I thought was going to last me 6 months in 2 weeks, now I have another 3 month wait period before I can get product in. And so I have been very blessed to hire really great people who've worked, Black women actually, who have worked in the industry and really understand supply chain, and have worked at other companies and have now brought their talents, thankfully, to Topicals. And so they have educated me a lot. And honestly, it's supply chain is very mathematical. It's very much statistics, probability. And so our inventory planning manager actually has built her own algorithm in a sense where she can kind of spit out when product is going to be out of stock. What happens when you're not that size, right? When you can't hire someone. And I feel like this is why for indie brands and Black owned businesses specifically, I feel my heart goes out to a lot of founders when you're managing this is like, there's nothing you can do, right? You don't have the same resources everyone else has to, get these experts in supply chain, but you also have customers who are maybe at this point in love with your product and really want it now. And so I feel like for the CEO and for the founder of the business, and really for the ops team of that business, it becomes very much difficult for you to do your job. And I know some in last year, my team, we like to be a company that really cares about people's mental health. And like transparently, I had about a couple times to be like, I'm taking a vacation. Like, we don't have any product. And I understand that like we're having to pay salaries, but like I'll have to figure this out next week because this week I need a breather. And I think that I wish we'd put the humanness back into business because a lot of times I think I'm seen as a cog in the wheel, even with the celebratory nature of topicals and people being excited. Like I struggle with my mental health a lot, to be quite candid, because I got to deliver. If it's not, I got to deliver to my customers. I got to deliver to my employees, to my investors, to my family, to my fiance. Like everyone is pulling me in different directions and I love every single one of them. But I feel like I have not been able to choose myself as much. And I know this is supply chain talk, but this is how
Oh,
deep
bring
supply chain
it.
is.
Bring it. No,
It
bring
really
all of it.
affects your business and affects your money and affects the way people see you. And I know brands who have like been hot and literally crumbled because their supply chain wasn't strong. And I knew for myself, we were going viral and doing really well. But I made sure that when we stepped into this year, before we spent a dollar on marketing, before we spent a dollar on education, sales, anything, we had to get our supply chain foundation right. And I'm really proud to say this year, we've done a phenomenal job. And last year, we should have done about double the revenue we did, but because of inventory, we missed out on all that money. And so this year, I'm really proud to say that because of our supply chain, we've really been able to see how much this company means to people, right? How many people we've been able to reach across the United States, across the pond in London and in the UK, and then also in Canada. And so it's great to have product, and it definitely is a first world problem to be out of stock, but a problem nonetheless.
No, thank you for bringing that up because it's not even just a supply chain. It's about everything of running a business as a, small business as a Black woman, and the stress that you put on yourself, the community's putting on you. And that, like, I go crazy when, like, if there's like an error message in my software, like something's happening, my customer's calling me, like I am stressed for a week, even if the problem got solved. The fact that the problem happened,
Happened, yes.
I'm sitting there like,
And I'm
what
sure
is,
you're like kind of a perfectionist like myself too. So it's like you're still running the situation back in your head 2 weeks later about
yes,
how could we have let that happen? Like, what are we going to do to not let it happen in the
right.
future? And I think I was talking to our community partnerships manager who runs like influencer for us. And we've both been working on in our one-on-ones. I do one-on-ones with every single person on my team every single month, even if it's just 15 minutes to check in and how they're doing mentally. But we were talking about how, as she's getting older, she's giving me advice on, and that's the great part. A lot of the people who work with me are a lot older than me, or like maybe a couple years older than me, or around the same age, but I'm typically the youngest person in the room. But she was like, as she gets older, she's giving herself more grace. And I think even if the world doesn't give it to you, you can claim it yourself. And I
Yeah.
think I've been very much a people pleaser throughout my life. And so I'm coming into the space now where if it doesn't align with me, unfortunately, it just doesn't align. And that doesn't mean I do it in a rude way or in a mean way, but it's like if I don't choose my mental health, I don't choose my own peace, topicals itself will cease to exist,
Right.
because I'm the one running the ship. And so I think I've definitely, especially over the last couple of weeks, have been like, my health matters, my mental health matters, time to myself, being creative matters to me, and I can't get lost in the nitty gritty. And if I disappoint people, I think that's okay. It's all
Hmm.
right.
No, I love that because I think even as I've gotten older, my anxiety has increased with stuff. So then, like, customer emailed me 2 weeks later. I'm thinking like, I should have said this. I should have done this. So I'm
Yeah.
getting with that too. That grace, that understanding, like it's gonna work out, or if it doesn't, it's okay. Like, and
Yeah.
that's
You know
hard
what?
to.
The grounding statement that I say, and everyone thinks I'm so funny when I say this, but I'm not lying. I sell lotion on the internet. It's not that serious. It's
Ah,
really not.
yes,
And it's like, yes, I love topicals. I love what we've done. I love that we talk about mental health, but like, that's kind of the grounding thing I tell myself. And then I'm like, you know what? It's going to be okay.
yeah,
It's going to be fine. I sell lotion on the internet. And it's lotion that's like helping people, transforming people's skin, the way they think about themselves. So I will continue to do it and do it well. But
breathe.
it's the
You,
end of the
you,
world. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not the end of the world.
Got it. Got it. No, I think though that's a good way to think about it. I like that. Cool. So as you talked about like a lot of different vendors that you're working with when you're creating your product and the months that it would take just to create one product, how do you decide which supplier you want to work with and what type of characteristic that you look for in a good supplier? The folks that you're working with, have you known them for years or these new relationships? How would you suggest to our audience of selecting a good supplier and how to decide on working with them, because people don't think about it as deeply as they do when it comes to like their employees, and I think that they need to.
Yeah, because a supplier can really have you all the way messed up where they'll promise something and not deliver, whether that's, they're late on something or you give them a spec of what you want them to create and they give you something that is completely wrong. I think it's very much a relationships based industry. And I'm very fortunate to have hired a VP of product who has 20 plus years in the industry. So she has a Rolodex of people that she works with. And so I've leaned a lot on her because I think in the early days when we were trying to figure it out, a lot of the partners we worked with were really great for starting off, but as you get bigger, it's harder to scale with them. And so I've been really fortunate to lean on her connections. And I think some of the big things that she looks at is making sure the person has a clean facility, making sure that they are, you pick a specific facility or a specific vendor based on what their expertise is. Is it skincare? Is it hair care? Food? Bath products, personal care. You really want to make sure that you know what their specialty is. And then I think it's how well they communicate and how organized they are, because you can work with a lab that is the absolute best in the world, but if their communication is awful, you rather go with a lab that's not that great because you will be waiting months to hear back about a product. And so just trying to figure out how you communicate, whether that's through using software like Monday.com, email, Slack, like whatever it is, it's making sure that you have that really great direct line of communication, because it gets really frustrating and you almost have to have someone then like babysit or like monitor your vendors when they're not communicative.
Got it. So no, that's good point. So we really focus on relationships and trying to figure out how to digitize a lot of that relationship building, the way we see it in other industry. So I love that, and I think more people need to like map out like what type of relationship you're looking for in that vendor going forward. So you are exclusively in Sephora. What was that process like of getting a partnership with Sephora, and why did you decide to be exclusive with them?
So I'll take a step back first. I always knew that we wanted to be an omni-channel brand. Omni-channel basically just means being everywhere the customer is. I think when I first started thinking about topicals and learning about brand, a lot of it was around D2C, which stands for direct to consumer, which is selling directly from your website, which a lot of small businesses are, and not being in a big retailer like a Sephora, Target, Walmart, Ulta. But I knew I really wanted to be a brand that was everywhere. I didn't want to be a brand that you just got on our website. Didn't want to be a brand that you just got in stores. I wanted us to really have a 360 relationship with the customer. And so when we launched in August of 2020, we actually were in a not a program, but like a limited edition partnership with Nordstrom, where we were in like 6 stores across the country. And we were also on their .com site as well as our own .com. Funny story, on launch day, our .com was broken. Like we had done all the work for it. The guy who built the website somehow did not finish in time, and we had set our launch date for like 9 a.m. or so Eastern time, or what PST. It was still not ready, and we were very fortunate that we had a retail partner because we were able just to direct everyone over to that website, and we sold out in 48 hours. Actually, on the first day, we sold out in of our bestseller, now our bestseller, in 6 hours. It was ridiculous. And I think we had done a really good job of cultivating that relationship with our community, but also because we didn't have a website, we only had one place to send our customers to. That partnership ended, and I realized that I really wanted to go into a beauty specialty retailer. I think there's a difference between a Nordstrom that has a bunch of different categories and a Sephora that has a bunch of different categories, but within one space being beauty. So I really wanted that attention. I wanted the customer to have the intention when they're coming into the store or going onto the website to want to be buying a beauty product. And so Sephora ended up being a really great partner to us because of what they offered at the time. 15% pledge was really kicking off with them, and they were doing an amazing job partnering with Black-owned brands. And so I chose exclusivity with Sephora because, one, I know myself. I have to stay focused with one channel and do really well there. My mom always says whatever's worth doing is worth doing well. And so I really wanted to master one channel. And, Sephora, Ulta, Target, Walmart, all of them have different sets of, things you have to be signed up for. You have to spend a certain amount of money on marketing. And so I knew for us as a smaller brand, we should just choose one and choose one that, really aligned with what we wanted to be. I always wanted to make ointments more premium. And so I chose a premium retailer because I wanted to elevate that experience. And so that really is how I got into Sephora, how I decided on the exclusivity. And I think it's been a really fruitful partnership for us. But it has been hard. Supply chain again, when they brought us into Sephora on their .com site in March, and we sold out in 48 hours, which is great. 48 hours seems to be our magic number. It's great for like an hour until Sephora's like, well, now there's a bunch of customers who want to buy and there's no inventory. And so not only did we launch in March on .com, but in August we launched all doors of Sephora in the US. So if we didn't already have inventory then, we didn't have inventory when we got to Sephora in August. And so while they were excited about us and bringing us in and the customer was excited, a lot of people were disappointed last year when you would go into the store, you could not find a single faded product or like butter. You couldn't find anything in the store and the website was sold out. And so I think there was a bit of frustration, but I'm really glad that a lot of people gave us grace. But yeah, that's the story of how we got into Sephora, and we've continued to stay exclusive just because one, focus, two, bandwidth on resources and time. But really the third is that I enjoy working with them. They're really great at launching brands, especially brands that tell a story. And so I've very much enjoyed our partnership so far.
No, that's amazing. And I know they started to really invest in a lot of different types of products and partnerships. And one of our last conversations, we talked a lot about like supplier diversity and getting into diverse programs. Have you taken advantage of anything like that? Or have you considered that as a part of your marketing strategy of like, hey, how do I get into different supply chains as you're thinking about it? So right now you're starting with you're in Sephora supply chain, and as you're thinking of expanding in the future, have you thought about supplier diversity programs, or would you suggest that as to like younger small businesses starting?
Yes. So Sephora's has a program called Sephora Accelerate, which is what their diversity pipeline is. And we were a part of that. We continue to be a part of that program at Sephora, and it affords us a lot of resources. And I definitely recommend that people do programs like that, whether at Sephora or other retailers. And then I think depending on what your business is, there's also government contracts and supplier diversity there, which I've heard a lot of people grow their business there even before they go straight to the consumer. And so I think it's really great to take advantage of these programs because the government literally has this money earmarked, and a lot of it doesn't ever get allocated because there aren't enough brands there to kind of have their hand out to get the grants. I am not the best person though at understanding grants. I would say the two great best people on grants and some of these diversity supplier initiatives, I would say Jamaica from Rosen. And then I'd say, who else is really great at this? The founder of Range Beauty, Alicia, as well. She's really great. She knows a ton about grants.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Yeah, we're always trying to recommend different ways to work with these corporations. It's it can be hit or miss depending on the organization, where they some are a lot of lip service and some are actually doing amazing jobs of helping Black and brown women, men too, but I'm just focusing on women today. Really elevate and get into their supply chain, get into their stores, create amazing partnerships, get them on their shelves, stuff like that. So I'm always trying to like highlight, especially if you have a good experience, making sure that people know like, hey, this is how you reach out to them and work with them. So I love that. So you talked a lot about mental health and investing in that. And I know that you invest in a lot of nonprofits as a part of your profit. Can you speak to that?
Yes, so people with chronic skin conditions are 2 to 6 times more likely to experience depression and anxiety. And so for us, it's really important that we build a holistic brand. So not a brand that just cares about let's get you from point A to point B in terms of your skin, but also let's think about like how is your skin affecting you. When I was at UCLA, I studied a lot of things, but one of the things I studied was psychobiology. And I didn't know until much later there is a subsection of psychobiology called psychodermatology, which is the study of skin and the mind. And it's really asking this question: what comes first? your skin causing a flare up or flare ups causing skin. We know that the relationship is actually back and forth. And so when I learned about this, I knew that one, we had to create effective, really great product for customers, but we also had to create experiences for them to understand deeper about how their skin or their appearance was affecting how they felt, whether that was stress, social anxiety, depression. And so while I cannot do all the research, I can donate money and put money in the hands of people who are doing the groundwork. And so far, we've donated over $50,000 to different mental health organizations. And I'm so proud of that because we're not the biggest brand and it isn't always the easiest for us to do the donations, given we do have limited resources. It's a part of the business. And so I make it an important part of like how we grow and what we do. And I'm really excited about the partners we've been able to support, like Sad Girls Club, Fearless Femme 100, Jed Foundation. There's a lot of really great organizations that we've been able to work with and hoping to work with more and continue to just evolve our efforts because I don't think donation is the end all be all. I think there are ways for us also to build out programs and we're have some things in the works that really just push more on making people think and then also helping them cultivate more healthy relationships with their mind.
No, I love that. That's part of your value prop, right? You have a lot of products out there. There's a lot of competition when it comes to selling to consumers. And as you're thinking of building out your business, it's like, hey, this is how I feel when I use your product. But then now I'm mentally feeling better. Like my skin is a result, but my mental health is also a result,
Yeah,
right? Because I know when my skin acting crazy, I'm in the house. I'm not going to even lie.
right,
You know what I mean? And
right.
but then when I feel good, I'm like, all right, let's go outside. You
But
start doing
even
that. It helps.
I'm sure that you even notice, like, even when you're in stressful periods, so your skin could be clear, but then you're stressed, and all of a sudden, like for myself, I notice whenever I'm stressed, I get like eczema. I've never had eczema in my life. I get
Same.
like eczema patches on my back. And
Yeah.
so, like, I noticed that that's also a time for me to check in with myself to be like, you have too much on your plate. One, obviously, using like butter to help with the flare up itself, but it's also a check in for myself to say, okay, something's going on here. Let's take a step back, whether it's like my eating, if I'm like overworking myself and I'm not eating the right kind of foods I need to, or I'm not sleeping enough. It just is a really great, your skin is a really great check in about what's going on with internally in your body. So we're hoping to help people be more mindful of that.
No, you're same with me. I'll get like a flare up, or if I'll get a facial all of a sudden over these years. And plus, I think people need to know how your skin changes as you get older.
Yes,
And
it definitely changes.
I get facials regularly, and just recently over the last year, I'll get a facial and get this crazy like rash afterwards for like 4 days, and
Oh,
then it'll
wow.
go away. My skin looks like this, and I'm just like, what the hell did that come
What's
from?
going on? Yeah. No,
Like,
that's I literally I've never had eczema in my life. And when I saw the first patch, it was so big. And I was
yeah,
like, I was scratching it, like, oh, did I like is there something on me? Like maybe I like a product fell on me or like something sticky. And it was like a dry, huge patch. And like it's now subsided because I used product and also like kind of pulled back as much as I can in terms of work. And I did notice another one pop up my leg. So I'm like, okay, this is
Mhm.
another reminder. I need to take a step back. And I think like, I don't know, skin conditions can start at any time. So I think it's just really about being mindful about what's going on in your life.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's so important to speak on. I'm speaking on it a lot more. Like my skin will always look like this, guys. Like when I'm stressed, it looks
Truly,
crazy. Like,
truly.
so what final advice would you give to our audience and community about supply chain issues and kind of wins and losses and how to really navigate it? One, not stressing, right? That's definitely one. But if you don't have product for 3 months, like what can you do in between that to one, not you lose your mind, but then also stay engaged with your community while they're waiting on the product. Maybe you give a little discount, but maybe you can't because it's supply chain. I don't know. Like,
Right.
so, like, what can you do in the meantime so people are not kind of going crazy at this time?
I think there are a couple of things, and something that we kind of touched on lightly but didn't really get deep into is cash flow as it relates to supply chain. And so, if I give Topicals as a great example, we put in, our orders 3 months in advance for when we need them, which means we've already spent the money that and we don't have the product to sell to make that money back. And so, a lot of businesses last year and over the last couple of years have struggled with staying in business because they don't actually have the cash and they could be doing really well and like you think they're the hottest brand, but if the supply chain isn't really working where they're having to pay, let's say if they have $10 in the bank and product cost $8, but you know that, you're going to sell the product and you're going to make $50, you still don't have $8 for 3 months until you get that other products in. And the $2 you have, you got to split on figuring out how you're going to market with one of the dollars and how you're going to hire people with another dollar, right? And so I think that it becomes very difficult and very taxing, even if you've raised money. I think a lot of people assume that, oh, they raised a lot of money, like they're good, they have a lot of, but like it takes $1 million to build an $1 million company. Like you have to spend money to make money. And I think so many people forget that, like, it could sound really great that a company's doing $1 million, 2 million, whatever. It probably costs them, especially if they're in year 1, 2, 3, it costs them $1 million to make that million, because they don't have what's called economies of scale. Economies of scale is like when you get to a certain amount of products that you're producing, the cost per product drops because the quantity is so much. When you're only ordering 100 products, 200 products, you don't get the same economies of scale or the same pricing as a brand that is buying 100,000 or 200,000 products. So I think cash flow management is super important. I think a lot of people wait to get a CFO until way later, but I think it's really important to have either a contract CFO or working in QuickBooks or these different platforms that allow you to track your spending and track the way money's flowing in and out, because you will quickly run out of money and be confused because you're like, well, we're doing so well. But if you're doing really well and the cost of your products, whether it's like you're not profitable, you're selling a product for $10 and it costs you $12 to make it. It's like knowing all of those things. And I always plug this platform. It's called Settle, that I think is really awesome because it is a cash flow management pretty much software. It allows you to get an invoice or pay. Let's say you have a due that you have to pay. They pay it for you. And I'm off the top of my head, I don't know the percentage that you pay back to them, but you have to pay it back within 30, 60, or 90 days. So it gives you time to float. So if actually up to 120 days now, if I'm a company that it takes about 90 days for me to get product, this is a really great solution for me because I'm able to basically pay for my product using the software. And then in 90 days when I get my product and I either sell it to Sephora or sell it to customers, I can still have another 30-day window to say, hey, I'm going to be able to pay you 50% of this now and then another 50% later. And then they'll add a little bit of tax on, right? Since they let you borrow the money and you don't get the cash in your bank account. It's just that they pay the invoice for you. It's called factoring. It's like a new school way of saying factoring. But it helps you manage your cash flow. So it's like, even if you don't have the cash, they can front you cover the bill and you pay them back with a little bit of interest. So I would say it's called Settle. Great platform to look into. We've used them and grown with them. And then I think on the other side of when, let's say you've already spent the money and you're listening to this now and you're like, well, I already spent it and they're not going to be able to give me the product in 3, 6, 9 months. Pre-sale is always a good option. I don't say it's a great option. I think it's a good option. Customers unfortunately want it and they want it now. But I think if you've built a relationship with people and you are open with them to say like, hey, we sell out often, we mix them in small batches. If you want your name on the list to get this product when it's ready to ship, buy it today. And then, you keep the customer updated, whether it's daily or weekly on how, hey, our ingredients just got to the factory. Our ingredients are being mixed today. Customers really actually like to be taken behind the scenes, and they also want to know you didn't scam them for their money. And I think it can be a little bit more difficult sometimes to do pre-sale because people might feel like you stole their money. But if you're very transparent with them, for the most part, people aren't. And also if you like have a flexible, refundable process where like, hey, if you decide, in a week after you bought it that you don't really want to keep your name on the list, there is a ability to get a refund. That at least keeps cash coming in even when you don't have product. The last advice I'll give is more of like an old school advice, and it's about building relationships with your vendors and trying to get on better payment terms. So some of the vendors will say, you actually don't have to pay me on day one to make this product. You just have to pay me when I ship it to you. Or some of them will say, if you give me 20% up front and then 50%, halfway through, and the remaining 30% when I ship it, that works out for me. And what that also does is it gives you the ability to be flexible on payment. So maybe you don't have the full 100% of what it costs to buy your inventory, but you have 20% or you have 70%, and then you just work out that relationship. And I think that was the best advice 2 of my friends gave me. One of them is a woman named Sharon from insert name here, which is a beauty hair company. And then the other is from Mad Happy. He's the one of the co-founders of Mad Happy. He's really awesome because he was the one that sat me down and was just like, you need to go to your vendors and tell them that like your business is going to be successful and like this is an opportunity for them to partner with you and for you to both grow. And they want your business, you want to work with them. And so really being transparent with people about where you are in the stage of your business, but where you think you're going to go, because they're also, some of them are small as well, and they don't want to lose a customer just because you can't pay 10% of the bill right now. So they'll be flexible with you. But that's the tactical advice I'd give to anyone with a business who is trying to understand their supply chain. And the last advice is to pray, because we are in murky waters right now. We are in territories. COVID was tough, and I would actually say, 2020 was tough, but 2021 to me was tougher because we felt it even harder. The ramifications of all the things that maybe were left over in 2020 really hit hard in 2021.
Got it. Now you dropped some gems. One, between settle, two, going to your vendors and asking for negotiation with pricing. And I think people forget that. People get nervous to do that, right? I
Yeah.
don't care if it's a small company or a large company. You're thinking in your head, I was like, I wonder if they can do 30 days, 40 days. Like, but
Yeah.
you never
Just
actually
ask.
say it. You just
Just
never
ask.
say it. So we've been doing a lot of partnerships with companies similar to a Settle, where a company called Now Account is based in Atlanta that focuses on, hey, you may not get paid from your customer for 45 days, 60 days. Hey, let us take over the contract. Let's pay you, because this one they actually do pay you. And then they get reimbursed when your customer pays you, right? So stuff like
Right.
is around for customers, whether you are enterprise software, CBG. So like doing that research of like, hey, there's ways to like really protect your cash flow. So you're not sitting there going crazy, waiting for somebody to pay you, waiting for your product to come in. Like you said, pre-sale may or may not work, depending, because you do have to keep people updated. Because I know even when I buy something, I'm like, all right, it's been like 2 months. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
product, and you want to be patient, and you want to understand like this product is coming, but at the same time I pay for it now, so you want it now.
Yeah, I want it now. Exactly, exactly. And so it can
Yeah,
be a little bit difficult sometimes to get a customer to understand that, and you never want to ruin that relationship. And so trying the other ways, I would say, is probably your best bet. And then last case scenario is pre-sale.
right. Yes. So audience, community, thank you so much for watching Supply and Demand, the real cost of doing business. We are speaking with Olamide, founder and CEO of Topicals. And this conversation was focused on getting smarter together, navigating supply chain wins and losses as an entrepreneur. This is part one. We're going to do part two over the summer. And she definitely dropped some gems on wins, losses, her entire process. And I love the way you talk about supply chain, because I don't meet enough people in business, even being in supply chain, a CBG company, like you're in it, like you're really talking about it so amazing. Like, I'm like,
I
yes,
know, I'm not gonna lie. I think why we were successful is I know every part of my business. Like,
that,
I would say I'm a polymath, is what people would say, which is like someone who likes a lot of different subjects. So I can switch between a finance meeting, brand marketing. I can go into the science education. I'm not the best at all of them, but I try my best to know the basics. And I think any founder, CEO needs to know the basics of every part of their business. I'll obviously hire experts in because they're going to really know how to execute against the vision, but you can't have a vision for a category that you don't understand, or an industry you don't understand, or a function of your business you don't understand. And so I try to make sure to spend time in all the different spaces and areas so that I can speak eloquently about each of them.
right, especially when you got to speak to your investors and board members.
Yes,
Like, you
yes,
can't be like,
exactly.
I think this is happening over here. Like, you can't do that. You need to be able to speak to everybody a part of your company, even if you know the basics, right? Like, how do you know if someone's doing something wrong, if you need to hire better, if you need to
Right,
promote someone, if you don't know what they're doing, right?
right.
So,
Yes. My parting words would be, though, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So it's okay.
yeah,
And I think we talked a little bit earlier about grace on yourself, and that's what I'm giving myself, is grace to make mistakes, because all the other larger companies they've failed forward. And I think that sometimes Black owned businesses don't get the same opportunity. And so I am excited to continue to fail forward.
awesome. Well, supply and demand audience, thank you so much for watching.